Welcome to TheStreet Live, everyone. I'm Jeff Marks, standing on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange with Jim Cramer. We got a little bit of an abbreviated show today because we do have our Action Alerts Plus monthly members-only conference call at 11:30 this morning. If you're not a member yet, please sign up, trial us. You're going to want to get on that video.
Yeah, it may take action depending upon where things are. Because when you follow the course of what we're saying at the top, I'm basically saying, what do you do when you have the twin disciplines of conviction, but also discipline? And we have a stock or two that need to be resolved, and it's not easy. And I want to show people what it's like in the real room about resolving discipline versus conviction using real stocks.
That's a great point, Jim. Now, if we take a step back now, obviously tough day for the markets. Monday, Tuesday after the up open, we did see a lower close. Yesterday higher. So, Jim, what are you looking at the markets at today?
The lowest cash position we bought. We held our nose and bought, including one that I think people thought we were out of our minds. We bought Disney. I think that now when you have this kind of uptake, even though we're still oversold, it's imperative that you raise a little cash. I'm not saying we're dangerously low in cash. I am saying that one of the things that happens was we saw some vulnerabilities in our portfolio, and we're getting a chance to be able to, a second chance to address those vulnerabilities, and that's important, and we're going to do it on the call.
Yeah, so I do want to save your comments for the call, but I guess what you're getting at is if you did put money to work at lower prices earlier this week, with the stock market, it almost washed away all of its losses this week thanks to the recent rally. Maybe it's time just to take a little bit off the table, replenish, maintain some of that flexibility, because we're gonna talk about Evergrande next, but that's still an issue.
Let's take. Remember when Salesforce dipped big and we bought some? Yeah, it was like we bought some like 220.
Yeah.
And now last night, they basically pre-announced a better number, and particularly the margins going better from 18.5 to 20. If you bought a ton of Salesforce and you just got this, then you would probably peel off 100. Now, Salesforce is one of my absolute favorite stocks, but I'm just mentioning that as being an example of, wow, wait a second. This stock just had a 12-point move. If I own 200 shares, maybe I would sell 25.
Yeah, I actually looked back this morning. We had a couple buys in the two teens, one at 230. One of those buys is when everyone was throwing away tech, I believe, in the spring. But Jim, I do want to move on to Evergrande next. So last night it did seem like China was going to step in and not let them default. But here we're seeing a difference in reporting. China saying this is more the local governments. You may need to step in and help make sure that this issue doesn't spread out. What do you think is going on here?
See, I think this was a tactical mistake by President Xi. The property sector is 30% of the economy. There's some really, really rich people in it, and I think he wanted to humble them. He's been humbling the rich. But what happened here is that this company had so much debt that he almost took the life savings away from millions of people. So what he's really guaranteeing, as far as I can tell, is the wealth management part, which is just people having their life savings, and the apartment part. But then I think everyone else is he's trying to get everyone else to lose money, particularly the foreign investors. And I don't know if he can do that. I think he can, but this is one where he cut his nose off to spite his face. If you want to punish a billionaire, just take his money. Here it looks like he tried to punish the billionaire and he almost took everybody's money. And I don't think I know he knows everything about companies because of the way that they have to disclose all their data, but I don't, maybe either didn't realize that this thing was a total house of cards, or he wanted to humble too fast. He's trying to humble sector after sector after sector, which is one of the reasons, by the way, that I'm concerned about Estee Lauder. Because is he or is he not going to try to humble the cosmetic sector? I'm going to address that on our call.
And we know that they've also taken steps to address the gaming sector, and you have Wynn CEO Mike Maddox on tonight. Right. Huge interview.
Yes, thank you. And I think that what you have to do is some of the parts analysis. That's what I'm going to ask him about, because if you wanted to build Wynn, beautiful place, you wanted to just build the casinos, I think it would cost you much more than the actual cost of the stock, which means basically that you're getting Wynn Macau for free. Now, the Chinese government historically has not cracked down on gamblers other than in junkets, and Steve Wynn wants to attack the Chinese government directly, and yet they didn't do anything about it. But maybe this is Xi trying to consolidate power and wipe out gambling. Well, the stock now says they are at 80. So if they don't, there's a lot of upside.
Yeah, and we published that some of the parts analysis on Action Alerts Plus. So if you want to do your own sensitivity analysis, your own scenario analysis, you can take a look at our numbers and play around yourself.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the product has always been about showing you our work on a recommendation list. It's not to own. I used to talk about this with my father. I said, Pop, you don't own 34 stocks. You're supposed to look. Don't tell me. Do it yourself so there's no conflict. Look at the 10 you get comfortable with. And I think that what we tried to present with Wynn was why we can stick with it and still have some conviction, even within the context of obviously getting it wrong. And again, a lot of people go on TV and they'll say, look, I think Wynn is fabulous. And then you ask them, well, didn't you start buying it at like 120? And they say, yes, but it's even better at 80. What they should be saying is, I started too soon. I didn't see this. Now, Scott Wapner does hold people's feet to the fire, and I love that. But I did not foresee Xi cracking down as aggressive as he did. But before people just take me to task, Didi did not see it. They had a very good deal with J.P. Morgan. And by the way, obviously, the property company, Evergrande, didn't see it. So Xi is doing things that we can't, that if you really could see, well, congratulations, you're better than the NSA. I mean, I'm not better than the NSA.
All right, Jim, we should talk about the Fed next and Jerome Powell. Big FOMC press conference yesterday. It does sound like that the Fed will wait on interest rates hikes, at least until the tapering process is done. I know you applauded Powell last night on your show. What do you think about his comments and how it moved the markets?
Let's take KB Homes. They just reported the stock was down 3 at one point and then it rallied. KB Homes is talking about the problems, principally the problems of a supply chain. Now, what Powell's a little more sophisticated than most people. Supply chain has meant two things. One, the ports, of which 20% of all of the container ships in the world are now stuck trying to unload in LA. But more important, he's talking about factories having a dramatically low attendance rate. I mean, let's take a look at the Portland facility in FedEx. They said that they're operating at 65% of what they normally would operate. Now, do you think those people are, the 35% of those people are just staying home watching video games? No, they're fearing COVID. The COVID fear, as we saw from the PMI this morning, service PMI, is genuine. If you haven't been vaccinated, and a lot of the workforce is yet to be vaccinated, then you know you're going to get COVID. I mean, you just do it. Look at the NFL. I mean, they're almost fully vaccinated, yet you still people get COVID. Now, if you're vaccinated, the COVID's not as bad. Antonio Brown, good. I was going to bench him anyway. But when you see, let's say you don't like the vaccine because you're Republican or something, and Trump didn't like it even though he took it. Odd. Or you're a Democrat and you just say, you know what, I think that this thing is tracking me. I don't want to get it. Well, you are making a decision to get COVID, okay? So you don't want to get COVID, so you stay home from work. Now, if you got vaccinated, then if you got COVID, you won't go to the hospital. 99% of the people who are hospitalized didn't get vaccinated. So the choices are this: stay home and not get COVID, and therefore miss work and cause a supply chain problem. Not that that should matter, you care about your health. Or go to work and get COVID. There's no go to work and not get COVID. You can't, because COVID is not what people think. I'm reading the unbelievable book, Uncontrolled by Dr. Gottlieb. And what the CDC got wrong, what Fauci got wrong is it's in the air. They kept thinking it's touch. So wrong. It's in the air. So if you go to the factory, you get Delta. So why go to the factory? And that's what's happening all over the country. So what Powell is saying is, look, just give us a little more time, and everyone's going to get COVID or get vaccinated. And then the supply chain problem is probably going to go away. It will go away for everything except for the ports. And I'm going to have a piece in Real Money later today about what to do about that situation.
All right, Jim, let's move on to Facebook. Tough stretch for the company. Yesterday, there was a blog post out that from the company that seemed to suggest that maybe they are experiencing more headwinds than originally thought of with that new Apple iOS policy change. Yeah, exactly. And then you also had the chief technology officer step down, announced he was stepping down after the bell last night. And we know that Salesforce CEO, Mark Benioff, has had some choice words about the company. So what would be your message to Facebook CEO, Facebook management right now? How to fix your image?
Absolutely.
What do you think?
I shared my message there. By the way, if you want to understand third party versus first party, go to the Adobe website. There's a fantastic white paper. Mark Benioff is saying basically that Facebook is not about truth, it's about power. Okay. In other words, that Mark Zuckerberg cares about product and power more than he cares about truth. And in Mark Benioff's way, and he's speaking at my conference, my social justice conference this week, what Mark Benioff basically is saying is that therefore there's no real long-term future. That's how you destroy your trust. You destroy the trust, you won't get any advertising. Mark Zuckerberg is saying that Facebook doesn't get nearly the credit for all the things it has done. For instance, say child exploitation. It's been far ahead on that. Now, I am suggesting to Facebook that they need a Supreme Court. They literally create a Supreme Court at Facebook where they will take the power away from Zuckerberg and give it to the Supreme Court when it comes to these issues. Now, I am not, you can call it tribunal, whatever, but you need 3 respected jurists or 6 respected jurists to say, look, we should not be, in the case of people saying, the anti-vaxxers, saying, look, we need to sticker this and say that we think as a company that this is not legitimate, or pull it. But right now, Zuckerberg is focused on so many different issues, but not enough on the being the single source of truth on the web. Mark Zuckerberg pushes back on this hard, saying that, for instance, that I am not thoughtful enough about the things that Facebook's doing right. I'm just a guy. I'm a guy who is saying, okay, Facebook says that and Benioff says that. Do I believe that Benioff's right about being truth versus power? Yes. Do I think that Zuckerberg is not following that? I think Zuckerberg is not nearly as nefarious as people say. But he has a company that was built on being a product, and he has not pivoted the way, say, the Vlad Tenev did, who had a company built on a product, which is the app for Robinhood, and he has to pivot. Now, is it too late to pivot? Mark Benioff seems to think that redemption cannot be had. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't think he needs redemption. So therefore, it's kind of a Mexican standoff, and there will be advertisers who walk away. But in the end, Zuckerberg has the eyeballs, and it's a very hard to reach group of people. You can't get them all the time on Amazon. You can't get them all the time on Google. The best aggregation of them is on Facebook. So if you sell the stock on this, it's a mistake. I'm looking to buy more, frankly, to get our position bigger, but our basis is so low, it would be kind of earth-shattering.
Yeah, that's been a position in the Chatterwood Trust for years.
Well before
years. Yeah. Last but not least, Boeing, they did boost their forecast for China aircraft demand to $1.5 trillion. Now, obviously, they need that 737 MAX approved.
I mean, Boeing has become a press release company. I mean, the other day they talked about long-term, this or that, and it's almost like they want people to not focus on the short term. And I don't mind that. No one's ever focused on, everyone knows that the reason why the stock's at 200, not 0, is because we all know that travel's going to come back, and it always has come back. But what we have to keep focusing on is what is the endemic thing about tequila bottles found in a plane? I mean, is the labor force sabotaging the image of Boeing? Are there such horrible labor relations at Boeing that you get constant leaks? Boeing is a company that is trying to fix its image and not trying to fix its product.
Yeah, Jim, I read your script for today's Action Alerts Plus call, and you did call Boeing a good American company, not a great American company, which is what you used to say.
It's not anymore. Molenberg did some real damage, sacrificing safety for for, I believe, actually at least sacrificing some safety, because the MCAS, I have people, sources on MCAS, and the MCAS was a very flawed system, and they chose to say it was no big change, and it was a monster change, and that was monstrous. And that is now, the B-29 had issues, but it was a rush to get the B-29 out, and it helped win the war. But the idea of Boeing as being the greatest manufacturer in the country, which is what I thought, is no longer true.
All right, again, we do have that 11:30 call. Jim, give us one last tease before we wrap for today. Certainly. And head over to do that video.
I spend some time trying to say what it's like to have a big loss, and what a big loss is and why they happened. And I think it's going to surprise you why we had somebody, now we haven't taken it, but it doesn't matter, why we had some big losses, because it has to do with big gains.
All right, you heard it right there. Again, that's at 11:30 a.m. Eastern this morning. You could stream it on the homepage of ActionAlertsPlus.com. We'll see you on the call. Thank you very much.